All right, well, I'm joined now by former anti-apartheid activist and also convener of the Defend Our Democracy campaign, the Reverend Frank Chikane. Reverend, thank you so much for joining us. The President says he only became aware of how bad state capture was when the Gupta leaks came out. And then he also says that activities were deliberately hidden from him. Do you accept that it is quite possible that he was in the dark about just how bad state capture and corruption was?
Well, I mean, we have to depend on his evidence. I mean, I can't judge and say whether or not he had information. I have to accept that he may not have known. I've worked in that environment before, and it is very possible that you could be a deputy president and not have all the information. So I'm not surprised about that. But I think, my view is not about what he said. It's more about the fact that a president of the country can actually subject himself to interrogation by a commission of inquiry as president. And that's good for our democracy, that we are equal before the law, and that even a president of a country or deputy president of a country is expected to account to the people, including going to court. And that's what the Defend Our Democracy is about here.
Yeah, so it's symbolically, at least, extremely important that the state president of South Africa is prepared to subject himself to questioning around what he knew around state capture, when, of course, we know that the former president has refused to appear before the commission. It was really interesting what the president said in his opening testimony, that he said when he did discover how bad things actually were in terms of state capture, that he had 5 options when he realized how firm a grip many SOEs and arms of government were in terms of state capture. His options were to resign, to speak out from his position about what was going on, to just go along with the corruption, to keep quiet and do nothing, or the 5th option, which of course he says he took, which was to stay where he was and resist what was happening and try and change things from within. And he says it's why he availed himself to be nominated to head the party, as an example. Do you think he made the right decision? And do you think his strategy paid off?
Well, I think on hindsight, we must give him credit that actually his strategy paid off. As he indicated, I listened to him that if he took a hard line, he could have been thrown out of cabinet and may not have had a role to play. And I mean, I expected that people in cabinet and in the NEC should take a stand and be firm about it. But I think he had a particular strategy, and I think we should give credit to him because he now is president and he's able to now deal with the issues. And we are hoping that the space has now been created for him, together with his cabinet and the NEC, to make sure that the change happens, that people who have committed crimes go to jail and account for their crimes, and that state capture stops, because we can't afford the people's government and the state to be captured by corrupt people. I think that's what the Defend Our Democracy is about. It's to make sure that we liberate the state from the corrupt lot and liberate the government from the corrupt lot, liberate our parliament from the corrupt lot. And we are pleased that the judiciary has really stood firm to make sure this corrupt and destructive strategy does not succeed in this country.
The reality is corruption has continued under his tenure as president. I mean, you just have to cite the huge amounts of money stolen around COVID-19. Would you see that as a sign that actually he's not making enough of a difference? We know he cited lots of areas where things have been cleaned up, but corruption continues. Does that mean that the state is still captured, Or would you draw a difference between state capture and acts of corruption?
No. There's a relationship between state capture and corruption, but the acts of corruption continue even if a state is not captured. I think what is important, and that's my personal view now, what is important is that you stop the capture. But to stop the capture meant you must deal with the people who are capturing the state or captured it. You must deal with people who have infiltrated the intelligence services, the police and the military. You must deal with the people who are outside the state security agency, who were armed and trained for special operations. There's a lot to be done in terms of ending state capture. And I think there's a report that makes it very clear, gives an account of why, of how far the NPA has been cleaned up, the police are being cleaned up, the intelligence services have to be cleaned up now. It couldn't be done before. So in a sense, it's not like you wake up in the morning and you are a president and you could end capture, because the people who captured it were with you in the cabinet, in the ANC and everywhere.
Reverend Chikane, I want to ask you about his response to the allegations that were levelled against him by Brian Molefe, Matsela Koko of Eskom, when they basically said that he had a conflict of interest because of his prior involvement with Optimum Holdings. They said that the war room, he politically interfered. Did you find yourself convinced by what the president said in his response to the allegations?
Well, he has explained it very clearly, and I would rather leave it to Judge Zondo to make his findings. Actually, I really don't think it is my task to do an analysis of his piece of information and evidence and express an opinion, because I don't sit through the whole commission. And I think the judge has been appointed to do this. It's the end. By tomorrow, he's going to make his findings, and I think we should await the findings of the judge.
Absolutely. Tomorrow, of course, is the second day. Are there specific pieces of information, questions that you still have that you're looking forward to hearing about tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, the Defend Our Democracy has sent a letter to the president to say that we really expect you to deal with the following issues. And obviously the commission has asked those questions. He has started us answering them. I'm just hoping that by tomorrow, all the issues that the president should deal with are dealt with effectively. I have no doubt that with the start today, that he would actually be able to deal with all of them. I will be surprised if he fails to do so, because he has been very open. He has admitted where things went wrong, and he has accepted that there's a moment in this history where things really went wrong. And that's what the commission is about, and that's what we need to correct.
All right, thank you so much for your time this evening, convener of the Defend Our Democracy campaign, the Reverend Frank Chikane. Thank you so much for your time.